In this video, I'm going to show you some completed amps and a few amps in progress, just kind of a status report while I wait for some parts to arrive. And given that I went to mail off some packages today, well, ship some packages, and both the local FedEx and UPS locations are closed due to the weather, it may be a while before I get those parts, but we'll find out. This is that AC10. And again, if you have one of the Vox AC10 handwireds, the only mods you really should make are, have to, are making sure that the previously 100 ohm screen grids here are changed to 1Ks or 1.5Ks, 1.2Ks. These are some 3 watt 1Ks. And then the other thing is from the factory, these 2 caps in the tone stack were really newt. And I replaced them not because the value is poor or the quality of the cap they used was poor. These are fine caps in here, the rest of the places, but because they had melted them when they installed them. A lot of the other changes you see, the filter caps, various electrolytics, those are upgrades that I'm doing for this owner, above and beyond what's necessary to make the amp more reliable, etc. Caveat on that, we'll talk about these white wires in just a moment. And here, as I mentioned in yesterday's video about the tone cut circuit in the Vox that the AC10 handwired lacks, I installed one here. It's fixed versus having a pot. This is a 4.7 nanofarad cap. This is the cap value to use. And as I mentioned in the video yesterday, you can use anything between 39K and 100K to taste. This is a 68K. The amp sounds very nice, very Voxy without ice pick highs. As previously shown on the stock AC10 handwired, the loop, due to the presence of the heater wires here underneath, was very noisy as it came in. And I played around with lead dress and nothing fixed it. As a Hail Mary, I took out the wire that was on the bottom here and the wire that was on the bottom here. This one was blue, I believe this one was brown. They go to the 2 sides of the switch, and replaced them with the shielded wire. So here's the center conductor, and tacked on a shield here, comes over here, and then both the shields are tied together here, very small amount of exposed center conductor here at the switch, and then shielded from here to here. This really got rid of all the hum that was in the amp because it's no longer picking up hum from the heater wires, which you can't see. They're right beneath this area where the tubes are. And as a result, it also made the reverb quieter, and it also made the loop itself quieter. It's still noisier at -10 than it ought to be, but at +4, it's quite acceptable now. So this is the fix. It's kind of convoluted. You got to lift this whole board up, snip this wire at the bottom here, snip this wire at the bottom here, or desolder them if you wish, but snipping them is easier, right up against where the base of the turret is. And then either replace it with a shielded run here, or if you never ever need to use the effects loop, you can just run a wire from here to here, just on top of the board. Does the same thing, bypasses all the loop stuff. So that's the fix if you have one of these with a noisy effects loop. And I think an awful lot of these will have noisy effects loops, though some of the commenters on the video said that theirs were fine. So hopefully that's the case, but Vox really needs to sort out their lead dress. So this amp's about done. It's really sounding good. I give you a demonstration, but my audio interface is acting up. You heard it a little bit in yesterday's video. The final touch on this amp, because it was so sensitive to noise, was I installed this foil as shielding once this rear panel is back in place. Before I install it, though, I got to do something very important, a very important step. You got to find where these holes are here, and transfer it to the back, and poke the hole this way so that when you put the screw through, it doesn't put bits of metal into the back of the amp. So I'm just going to open all those holes. I'll put the screws back in this off camera, and this will be ready for the owner. This is the AC10 handwired's big brother, the AC15 handwired. And as I showed in the previous videos, I was not happy with the externally mounted right angle speaker connection that would get sheared off in transit. So I made the radical step of drilling a center line through both this and the chassis, then drilling the proper hole in the chassis to take a cliff jack and put on this new power cable, speaker cable with a Neutrik plug. And I drilled out a 1-inch hole in the bottom panel, then hit it with some flat black spray paint, and it looks good. Also had to do some flat black spray paint here because when I took the bottom panel off so I could check the reverb tank, they had assembled the cabinet before the factory paint had dried, and it just pulled off a strip of wood here. So, you know, not perfect, but not my fault. It had just delaminated and gone, and it happened in the blink of an eye. But, you know, I took the time to mask all this off and make sure the paint didn't go anywhere it didn't need to go. Maybe I could have gotten another coat, but I didn't want to get into any drips or anything. This will be invisible in actual use. But it sure would be nice if all these amp companies would stop putting things together before the paint and their glue is set up. I think the worst offender, no pun intended, is Fender. Not only do they put the chassis in the amp before the adhesive cures on the metal foil on the top of the cabinets, which means when you pull the chassis out, the foil comes out with it, but they often install the speaker before the paint on the baffle cures. So when you try to remove the speaker, the whole gasket gets torn up. It's a pain in the butt. Everyone who's done this has seen that again and again, and it's unnecessary. Wait 30 minutes. Find a way to change your assembly process. I covered almost everything else in the previous videos on this, though the 8 microfarads did show up for these two nodes here. And as you can see here from this push-pull, the bass pot is now a push-pull. When it's down, it's stock JMI. When you pull it up, which is hard to do from this angle because of the chicken head, but when you pull it up, it's easy when you're standing. Then you get a mid-boost. I've shown that in other Vox videos. Makes it sound a little bit more like the amps used for Revolver and Pepper and Magical Mystery Tour. And on this amp, I also decided, let's shield it and make it better. I already have the holes punched, so ready to go back to the owner once I get these screws in place. This is that Headstrong little king that was so noisy when it came in. Links to the previous videos on all the amps mentioned in this video will be in the description. The final touches on this were to put in the Mojo Tone medium decay reverb tank and some braided reverb cables to make it look prettier. Not only does it look prettier, it doesn't go anymore, which is a nice change. This is 64 Deluxe reverb with the new Roach, so the tremolo works now, very strong. 20-20-10 on the caps. Yes, these are small. These are Muratas, much higher quality caps than the old ones. These will never fail. They're not in the signal path, so it doesn't matter if it's a different material than Fender used. It's a very smart way to go. And over here you can see I've got a little 22 microfarad 63 volt cap from the wiper to ground. This got the last of the hum out of the amp. The amp is now quieter than it has ever been. You'll get to hear this amp before it goes home. This is that 59 Bassman. Had to rewire the input jacks. They had some really bad connections in there. Got everything off, everything cleaned. New caps throughout, both electrolytic and film. So Vichy on the electrolytics, and also Vichy on the film. These are the MKT 1813s. They're fantastic. I'll change out the dropping resistors in the power supply as I go. Haven't gotten there yet. Down here in the bias supply, I had to stop because I ordered 10 of the 10 microfarad 100 volts. And the supplier sent me 1 versus 10. I paid for 10, said 10 on the invoice, only got 1. They're on their way. They're somewhere between here and Arizona. And given the ice storm which hath cometh, who knows when they'll get here, but when they do, I'm ready. I was able to get out all that nonsense where they'd soldered a pot to the chassis, which probably nuked the pot. I put this standoff here to do the bias tap to this diode here, taking the place of the old selenium rectifier. Nice and clean in this area. Down here you can see I did put in the new standby cap, and the power is all wired up, though I've not done the hot, the wire from the fuse to the switch. I'll do that. So the neutral is going to the primary here. That's a very good splice beneath the heat shrink. Over here we have the new power cable with its AC safety grounded chassis, HD center tapped chassis, and the heaters are no longer tied to chassis. That's taped off and back here. And tuck that back where it was. And I'll do some heater balance resistors at the octal socket. Speaking of octal sockets, I put a new phenolic here for the rectifier to match the old ones. And all 3 octal sockets have new Belton bear trap retainers because this thing had the Marshall style with the springs, and that's just a nightmare, especially in a combo. Very microphonic. Here's the new rectifier wiring with some diodes to help the tube out a little bit, offer a little bit of protection from inrush current. I've not done the wire going off to the standby switch yet. That's soon to come. And some 3 watt 470 ohms here on the screen grids This amp does not have grid stoppers. It may well receive them. We'll see how stable it is when we fire it up. And while I was able to get all kinds of rust and dirt and junk off of this thing, I love it when you see this with the old shellac from the tweed has, telegraphed itself and stuck to here. So that's old tweed shellac, maybe a bit of layer of old tweed. I like that kind of stuff. That might be the thumbnail for this. What do you think? Thumbnail? Thumbnail. And this is the last one for this video. It's a 616G2 Princeton. So new Vichy electrolytics, new Vichy coupling caps here to replace the yellow Astrons. I've done some prep work down at this end. I'm waiting for some caps to arrive to finish this up and fun stuff like that. Oh, a fun thing. New bias supply all rebuilt. So 100K 2-watt resistor, the diode, the cap to ground here, then the trim pot from this eyelet to this eyelet, and then the limiting resistor for the bias. This sets a 10K range, and this is the rest of it. And that's the way I like to do these, so I have a nice reliable connection and nothing's hanging in air. As this came in, it had a very overkill pot. Here it is. Very high quality pot, but it was only supported by these little bitty things that weren't really rated for to support the mass of this thing. So this mounted flush up against here, soldered here, and everything's solid. This is the way to go, in my opinion. My bench, my opinion, right? So a lot of good amps done, a lot of good amps in progress, a lot of good amps to come. As always, thanks for watching.